Yeah, I mean, I've never felt better, Keith. I mean, and I think it's not just because we're up here with these, great men. I think we've been working at it. I think last year was, for our team, a really growth year. We've got a great coach in Dwayne. I mean, you guys are in great hands with him. He's tough, he's strong, but he's one of the most, compassionate, empathetic people because, we all need that regardless of how, difficult things are. We always need that compassion too. He just doesn't have that, just toughness. Troy, I mean, we've only known each other just over a year, but it seems like 20. So I can imagine how your wife feels. It's like, it's got to be over 100. But, he's intense. Through this process, he just went through everything. Like, he didn't care what he read, what he saw. He just needed to see it himself. He's a guy that gets on the ground. This last year, he went to every game, COVID or not, and really got the players to embrace him. They work with coach every day. And so I feel great about it. I think the city, for us, we've got this practice facility. Obviously, we're in the city of Detroit playing. So, we're full of community and so on. So everything, it seems to be coming together. And then we had the good fortune of getting the number 1 pick. And we didn't really expect it, honestly. We haven't had the best luck, in the lottery. So I feel, it's almost you have to compose yourself. And, I woke up this morning, I felt like we won already. We haven't won a game yet. But that's the way I felt. It was like we won, but we know we got a lot of work to do. And so I feel excellent, Keith, about where we're at. But I also know, just through my own experiences and just the way life goes, we just got to go to work. We go to work. We have a great foundation.
And with that, the tangible side of hope is in grasp and in view, hopefully, for Tom Gores and the Pistons, as they attempt to re-enter the realm of not only respectability, but relevance, a place they have not been in over a decade and a half. But thanks to a productive and fruitful night in the draft last month, the Pistons brass is hoping that they've selected 4 cornerstone pieces which will help lead their reclamation project. So the question remains, how should we view the Pistons and the state of the franchise following the draft? Friend of the program and 97.1 The Ticket update anchor and producer Jake Riepma returns to the show to provide his thoughts on where the Pistons go from here. I'm Kevin McShann. Let's have this conversation.
Detroit's gonna work. Ooh, yeah. Said I love this game. Clap your hands, stomp your feet. Whoa. Detroit's gonna work. Come on, get your shoes, roll your sleeves. Yeah. Detroit's gonna work. Come on, y'all. Watch that clock. Time to rock. Oh, yeah. Time to go to work.
Jake, always great to see you, and I'm excited to dive into what the Pistons did in the draft. Good to be with you this afternoon, and thanks for being here, Bonnie.
Absolutely, Kevin. It's always a highlight on my calendar when we get one of these Zoom meetings booked, and I anxiously anticipate it. But a lot of times we're diving into these conversations and trying to grasp for straws and something to be excited about, but that's not the case today. I mean, I'm excited. I hope you can hear it in my voice, and we've got a lot of good things to discuss. That's for sure. So thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Hope springs eternal, my friend. Absolutely. So tell me, Jake, what did you think of the selection of Cade Cunningham. One might say that was Captain Obvious, but tell me, what do you think the selection means for the trajectory of the franchise?
Yeah, absolutely, Kevin. And I would have been one of those that would have told you, listen, he's the can't miss number one draft pick. Do not even consider trading it. Do not even consider taking Jalen Green. But of course, Troy Weaver and his team had to evaluate every possible option and do their homework, do their due diligence. But I am just so glad and beyond thrilled that they settled on what I thought was the obvious pick, and they felt right about bringing Cade Cunningham to Detroit. And clearly he embraced it. I mean, I'm sure you saw and everybody else saw his draft press conferences and how much it means to him to be in Detroit and to wear number 2 and to honor Chuck Daly and the permission that he was given by the family. And that was just so neat to see him connect with the city of Detroit on so many levels. And then, like you said, most importantly, probably what he can do on the floor. I mean, you're talking about a guy that can score at every level. He can make it happen off the bounce, and just the size, length, and athleticism that he's going to bring to the Pistons. And maybe he's not the best prospect we've ever seen. Okay, we don't want to get ahead of ourselves and that sort of thing. But some of the player comps that are out there, the Grant Hill player comps, and go farther, even back further, Larry Bird might be a little bit of an exaggeration, of course. But the fact of the matter is, Cade Cunningham is a guy that immediately makes your franchise relevant and gives them every opportunity to be in that discussion for a significant step forward to play some meaningful basketball here. And I'm just ecstatic and pumped to see that come to the Motor City.
Yeah, I can tell that in your voice, Jake. And I'm also wondering your thoughts on the ascendance of him as the face of Detroit sports, because Cabrera is getting older, Stafford is no longer here. So I'm wondering your thoughts on the avenue that may be open for him in that regard, buddy.
Yeah, listen, I mean, let's make no mistake about it. This is a city that's desperate for that type of superstar, right? I mean, maybe you could say Blake Griffin was for the Pistons, the face of the franchise, but we don't even need to get into all that. And it was to no fault of his own, but his body deteriorated on him, although he played pretty fine in Brooklyn. But I mean, Miguel Cabrera, his time is, he's certainly on the back nine of his career, and Matthew Stafford traded, and it's almost like the seas opened up, and Cade Cunningham is ready to walk down as Detroit's newest franchise player and the star of the city. And I think this began even before draft night. I mean, you saw him really embrace it. And even before he was picked and officially a member of the Detroit Pistons, he was at Comerica Park, and he said he wants to throw out first pitches. He wants to embrace the city. And I think that's so huge, especially for a fan base in all 4 major sports that have just been so deprived of that type of player for such a long time. It's going to be so refreshing to see him hit the ground running and really embrace becoming a member of the Detroit Pistons.
Yeah,
Cade Cunningham. Firstly, I just want to say, more than thrilled to be here, to finally see some faces around Detroit, and just to kind of soak in, the moment, and I've worked really hard to get to this point, and once I heard Detroit winning the lottery, I mean, my mind was on Detroit. I wanted to be in Detroit. And so I was stuck on that, and they definitely tested me. They didn't leave any stone unturned, but I appreciate that, because no one pick is a lot of responsibility. It's a big job, but knowing that the front office and coach are so thorough about this process, I know that they really care about winning and really care about restoring the Pistons and really care about taking the next step. So. More than happy to be here. Excited to see everybody's faces.
Yeah, listen, I mean, this is a guy who, for Oklahoma State, he was called to do everything. And I think he's kind of inheriting a similar situation in Detroit where he is going to be called on to do a lot of things. He's going to have to score. He's going to have to make things happen off the bounce. He's going to have to be an assist master. And I think that his game lends itself to being able to take on that type of responsibility and what everything of being the face of the franchise and being a star player entails. And I know it was only 1 year sample size at Oklahoma State, but and maybe this is just me being desperate and seeing what I want to see, but I think he's proven that he is capable, willing, and able. And when you take what he said on draft night and saying he's all in, I think there's so much. Yes, it's just one soundbite, but there's so much to take from that. And I'm just really excited to see him and really the rest of the organization rally around our guy in Cade Cunningham.
So tell me, what did you think of the rest of the Pistons draft class, Bud?
Yeah, Luca Garza, a guy that certainly had his fair share of on the court accolades and player of the year out of the Big Ten in Iowa. And, a lot of people skeptical about the athleticism there, but I think this is a big guy that has proven he can make it rain from beyond the arc. And that's so important in today's game, obviously. And you talk about player comps, if you will, maybe a Brook Lopez and that sort of thing, and how he has helped Milwaukee. And maybe, that's a little bit of a jump, but second round guys it's the NBA draft is so unique in the sense that you're praying you get a guy that can make the team out of the second round. So, I don't think we're putting a ton of stock into what Luca Garza and Isaiah Livers. Of course, that's a fun story as well, with him being a local product out of the University of Michigan, and injuries at the end of his career, his collegiate career, I should say, is kind of what derailed him. So if he can get back to being healthy, maybe Isaiah Livers is also a guy that can prove to be a role player and a piece of the puzzle for the Pistons moving forward. But aside from that, again, I hate to just put all the attention on Cade Cunningham, but he's the number one pick, Kevin. What else do you want from me? He's our guy. The Detroit Pistons are turning the corner in 2021 with the selection of Cade Cunningham, and hopefully Luca Garza and Isaiah Livers can be two guys that help build the future of this team as well.
Troy Weaver said one of his priorities going into the draft was improving the shooting, and I'm assuming you would agree that he's done that. But can you give me your thoughts on that, and also the overall body of work now that his second off season with the team?
Yeah, listen, Troy Weaver has come in from day one and essentially cleaned house and put his stamp completely on this franchise, and that includes making some difficult moves. And a lot of people were maybe not upset, but wanting to see how everything came into fruition when he made all those moves last year. And I don't think you could make a case that he couldn't have done it any better. I mean, that season, his first season under his belt, has yielded such positive results in terms of building the future of the organization. Obviously not the results on the floor in terms of wins and losses, but that can't be done because you're trying to rebuild and earn that number one draft pick, which they did. Now for, some of the other moves in trading Mason Plumlee to free up some cap space, I think the jury's still out. I for one am excited about the Kelly Olynyk addition. I think he can be a guy that you build around. Again, maybe not a centerpiece, but look what he did in Houston. The 1 year he was really called upon to be the main scorer, nearly 20 points per game. He shot the ball better than 35% from beyond the arc. So to your point about improving the 3-point shooting, I think Kelly Olynyk's a guy that does that. And hopefully both Luca Garza and Isaiah Livers can do that combined with Cade Cunningham. So I think the 3-point shooting for the Pistons will be improved. And as I mentioned earlier, that's so important for today's game. So I'm looking forward to seeing them put that into play here in the upcoming season in 2021 and into 2022.
Yeah, Jake, just take a look at your Twitter feed last night, and you were ecstatic with the Kelly Olynyk signing, buddy. So
absolutely,
I saw that. So maybe a white man can still shoot right now.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, and I saw a couple other tweets about Kelly Olynyk the last time the Pistons had a guy that looked like him. It was Walter Herman. So maybe he'll have a little bit more success than Walter Herman. But no, in all seriousness, Kelly Olynyk, before his stop in Houston, where he didn't even play a complete season, where that was the best offensive numbers he'd put up, he had proved to be an impactful player in his previous stop with both the Heat and the Celtics. And so I'm not going to come out here and say we're going to win the NBA title because we got Kelly Olynyk on our team, but combine him with what Cade can do, and maybe it's not like they're locking anything down long term. Yes, it's a 3-year deal, $37 million. So it's a noteworthy investment, but the third year is a player option. It's not guaranteed, so that can be reworked if necessary. I think it's kind of the best of both worlds. We can do a little bit of an experiment here, see if he gels with Cade Cunningham, and see if that combination is a winning combination. And if not, you're not tied into anything too long term, and you go back to the drawing board, still freeing up that cap space. And maybe in a year or two, there's a disgruntled star that wants to find its way in Detroit to play with Cade Cunningham.
Well, that's the power of superstars, isn't it, Jake?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And it's been, like we said earlier, it's been well documented. It's been forever since we've had a superstar. We deserve this, Detroit. We deserve Cade Cunningham, and let's embrace him as we have. And it's exciting to have a star player in Detroit. And oh, by the way, let's add in Kelly Olynyk and see what he can do. Maybe he can shoot the ball well from beyond the arc like he did in Houston. And then again, Killian Hayes, he's another guy. Obviously, he was drafted last year, but such a small sample size because of the injury. So the jury's still out on him. And I could just go down the list of all the exciting components to this new Pistons roster that I'm looking forward to see play.
Absolutely, and you mentioned Killian Hayes, so I'm curious to ask you about what do you think the roster rework means for his future with the team, buddy?
Oh, I don't think you can make any emphatic statement one way or the other about what his future holds, and I just think you need to see more. And that could be the same could be said about all the Pistons rookies. I mean, who really, aside from Jeremy Grant, I don't know who you're not looking to see more out of. Saban Lee did some nice things. Sadiq Bey did some nice things last year, and that rookie class really helped shape what this Pistons future could look like. And so for that reason, I don't think you can definitively say they're all safe, but they're all going to participate in the summer league. And Isaiah Stewart's another name that I think with him you kind of know what you're getting. He can be that energy guy, that grinder, and that presence around the rim, not necessarily the scoring that you might need from other players. So it's still, I think it's such a young roster that there's still so many things that are going to play out here in the near future, but it's an exciting young roster. And I don't think we've said that about the Pistons for, gosh, I don't even know.
Decade and a half.
Right. A long time, my friend, a long time.
And
What's up, everybody? It's Isaiah. I'm just excited to be back home, man. I played down the street at Michigan, and once I knew Pistons on the clock, 42, me, my dad, my mom, we were like, let's stay home, why not? And what Casey and Weaver got going on over here is something I want to be a part of, because it's about to be some talent. Like they used the word restore. Perfect. When I was in my interviews, I was like, restore. I like that better than rebuild as well. So, restore Detroit, get it back to where it's supposed to be, and I'm excited to be here.
And Jake, as you know, Isaiah Livers and John Beilein are back together. So I'm wondering your thoughts not only on the reunion, but what does Livers and Beilein's presence on the staff mean for the player development for all of the Pistons?
Yeah, I think it's okay to theorize or hypothesize that Beilein being on the staff will bode well for the Detroit Pistons. And I was hoping it was really going to bode well and bring Tim Hardaway Jr. to town, but obviously that didn't happen, and he's going to stay in Dallas. But John Beilein, I think, is such a high basketball IQ and just knows so much about the game of basketball and has had success. Obviously did not have success as a head coach in Cleveland, but then again, who could have success in Cleveland? It's Cleveland, for goodness sakes. I don't hold that against him by any means, but the reunion with Livers will be good. I think Beilein's a guy that can maybe necessarily he didn't necessarily relate to players well in Cleveland, but I think that was a learning experience for him. And now maybe not being in the spotlight as the head coach, but more of a behind the scenes guy with that player development specifically. I mean, look at Duncan Robinson. That's a guy that was a Division III basketball player, and now all of a sudden is close to a max player in the National Basketball Association. I think Beilein had a lot to do with that in terms of player development. So I'm excited to have Beilein on the roster as an assistant coach and have his handprint involved with what's being created here in Detroit. And I think Livers is a guy that can attest to that, obviously with his Michigan connection, and we'll see how Beilein is able to make his stamp on the roster.
And now, do you think Livers' injury will hold him back to start the season at all?
I don't know necessarily. I never want to play doctor on TV. I think the medical professionals will handle that and whatnot. But I don't think he should feel rushed to get back, and he should obviously take ample time to ensure that the injury is fully healed before he tries to resume action. And of course the Pistons organization as a strength and conditioning staff and rehab staff will take care of all that. So I don't think he's a guy that you're counting on to make an immediate impact as a rookie. And so if an injury does prevent him from, or maybe extends that timeline out, I don't think it's the end of the world.
Now, Jake, this is the 10th anniversary of Tom Gores owning the team, and he said this is the most optimistic he's felt since owning the team, and I can certainly see why. But I'm curious to get your thoughts on how big of a offseason or draft class or sort of direction this offseason means for Tom Gores specifically as a principal owner.
Yeah, it's hard to really put all of my emphasis and attention on the ownership, because I do think it's important. And most importantly, I think Tom Gores is a guy that wants to win, and he wants his franchise to be successful, which is more than some owners. So and I think that's the most important part. So as for the specifics, yes, it'll be his 10th year owning the team, and we really haven't had much to live up to or be proud of as Pistons fans since 2011 when he took over as principal owner. And there was some, at times some skepticism that maybe he wasn't all in it and he was just in it to make money, that sort of thing. But I do think in the recent acquisitions and in some of the other roster transactions, it's proving that this is an organization that is wanting to win, wanting to become relevant, and return to the historic measures that this franchise has reached in years past. I mean, make no mistake, I was talking to some younger fans and they've never seen the Pistons be successful. They don't remember 2004. They don't remember the Bad Boys or the Isaiah Thomas's teams and the going to work Pistons that won it all in 2004. So this is a franchise that needs to get back to that. And I think with Tom Gores as the owner, Troy Weaver as the general manager, and Dwayne Casey as the head coach, they're starting to make their way back, obviously with Cade Cunningham at the forefront.
Now, Jake, what do you think this upcoming season means for Dwayne Casey? Because, he was given the contract extension to sort of see the rebuild through. But what do you think this upcoming season means for the Pistons head coach?
Yeah, I had the same question, Kevin. I think Casey has kind of molded himself as the rebuild guy, the player development guy. You saw that's what happened with him in Toronto. And he, a lot of people would credit him for building that roster into what it was right before. And then they got Kawhi Leonard and won the title. So I think Casey's future is still through not just the rebuild, but seeing them into playoff contention, and not just making the playoffs, but making a splash in the playoffs. And I think Dwayne Casey, and obviously the contract extension backs me up there, but I think he's the guy to lead this team. And, he's another guy that you talk about with Cade Cunningham, embracing the city. So did Dwayne Casey, and he fits with this city. He fits with the mantra and the mindset of a hardworking class, gritty Detroit versus everybody. And he's embraced that. So I think Dwayne Casey is the man for the job, not just to handle the rebuild, but to see it through, and from a rebuild to a team that can compete to make some noise in the playoffs.
Yeah, Jake, my last two questions for you today have to do with the rest of free agency and how active you think the Pistons are going to be, and whether you think they'll make the playoffs next season.
Yeah, listen, I think the rest of the free agency might be a little bit quiet for Detroit, given that they signed Kelly Olynyk, and some of the big splashes might come a year or two down the road. And I don't know if it's necessarily fair to say, okay, in 2021 into 2022, this coming season, we should be competing for playoff spots. But you also look at the roster and how many, I mean, not to sound like a broken record, but there are a lot of young and exciting pieces on this roster that it wouldn't shock me. It really wouldn't if they all of a sudden found their groove and were among, that 8, 7, 6, 5 seed in the East. But it also I want to preach patience, because there's just like the potential of a young roster grooving and gelling well, there's also the potential that it's going to take some time to find that. So, and find that chemistry, find what's working. And Cade Cunningham has the weight of the city on his shoulders. So I, for one, am totally content with being a little bit patient this first year and seeing how things shake out.
Hey, Jake, I know that the Michigan State of Sports is still going strong. So tell people how best they can connect with you if they're so inclined to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Michigan State of Sports, Tony Garcia from WLNS in Lansing, and Nate from 97.1 The Ticket here in Detroit. We do a good job of bringing you the latest and greatest in the sports scene of Michigan once a week. And you can hear it on Spotify, Apple Pod, wherever you get your podcasts. And that is the Michigan State of Sports. And we've had some great guests on, so we appreciate them coming on and providing the latest and greatest in the Michigan State of Sports scene.
Wherever you get your podcast on makes me think you're a radio guy, Jake.
Yeah, something like that, I guess. Fake it till you make it, I guess, right?
Well, it's gotten me this far, so.
There you go. Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, Jake, it's always great to see you, and we changed it up a little bit. We didn't talk Lions football this time, but this marks your 7th appearance on the show, buddy. So congratulations on that, and thanks as always for bringing your A game, bud. Always great to see you, and have a great day.
Hey, I appreciate it, Kevin. I got to bring my A game to keep up with you, my friend. But I look forward to the to appearance number 8, and maybe we will talk some Lions then. But until then, always appreciate your time, Kevin. You do such a great job, and it's such a fantastic product that you put together here, and I'm looking forward to next time.